TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. The supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, asserts that his regime will not forgo its perceived right to possess, quote, deterrent weapons. U.S. officials say that the Iranian delegation is required to return within 2 weeks' time with a detailed proposal to bridge some of the remaining gaps. And Jerusalem's security cabinet is scheduled to convene on Thursday evening, while the United States continues to transfer dozens of aerial assets into the broader Middle East. The Islamic Republic of Iran refuses to dismantle its nuclear program, while rejecting negotiations over its ballistic missiles and support for terror proxies altogether. Speaking to his followers in Tehran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei asserted that Iran has every right to possess deterrent weapons and that the United States should mind its own business.
Death to enemies of the guardianship of the jurist. Death to the United States. Death to Britain. Deterrent weapons are one of the necessities of our nation. The Americans are interfering in this matter without any reason. You may have such and such missiles. You may have such range and not more. What does it have to do with you? It concerns the Iranian nation.
The remarks by the Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic were made after the second round of negotiations were held between delegations of the United States and Iran via Omani mediation in Geneva. The meeting lasted for almost 6 hours, after which Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi released a statement in which he noted that the indirect negotiations between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America in Geneva, quote, concluded with good progress towards identifying common goals and relevant technical issues. Nevertheless, while characterizing the spirit of the meetings as constructive, he also acknowledged that much work is yet to be done. Meanwhile, according to a U.S. official intimately familiar with the contents of the talks, acknowledged that some progress had indeed been achieved in the talks. However, the official emphasized that many details have yet to be even discussed and pointed out that the Iranians were asked to return within 2 weeks' time with detailed proposals to bridge some of the remaining gaps. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, in an interview to a regime-run news agency, sought to forecast more optimism than the restrained statements by U.S. and Omani mediators.
I can say that in this round, there were quite serious discussions and a more constructive atmosphere than in the previous round. Various ideas were raised, and these ideas were seriously discussed, and finally we were able to reach a general agreement on a series of guiding principles that from now on we will move based on those principles and enter into the text of a possible agreement.
The Ayatollah regime's top diplomat, who clearly aims to buy for time, further highlighted the necessity to engage further until common ground is achieved.
This does not mean that we can reach an agreement quickly, but at least the path has started. We hope that this will be done as soon as possible, and we are prepared to spend enough time on it. However, when it comes to drafting the text, the work becomes a bit more difficult and detailed.
Minister Araghchi further stated that there was no timetable for a next round of talks, a statement which effectively contradicts the remarks by the American official.
نه زمان مشخصی تنظیم نشد قرار شد یه مقدار
No, no specific time was set.
یک توافق احتمالی
It was agreed that the two sides would work on the texts of a possible agreement for a while, and then we would exchange these texts and then set another date for the third round. We now have a clearer picture of what needs to be done and what needs to be done down the road. Of course, both sides still have positions that need to be brought closer together, but at least now we have a set of guiding principles and a clearer path to follow.
It is important to highlight that the clear intention by Iran to drag its feet, which was anticipated by the Trump administration, will raise prospects of conflict since President Trump was unequivocal about limiting the talks to no longer than 1 month. Moreover, the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group is expected to arrive within reach of the Islamic Republic mid-next week at the latest, while dozens of aircraft continue to make their way into the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility within striking distance of Iranian territory. Recognizing the force buildup surrounding Iran, Minister Arakchi, in an address to a disarmament conference at the United Nations in Geneva, seized the opportunity to blame the United States and European nations of warmongering.
The United States and some European states persist in the imposition of unlawful sanctions, military threats, the engagement in force posturing, and the issuance of explicit references to the possible use of force by the United States, including significant military deployments in the region. Such actions constitute a continuing violation of the prohibition of the threat or use of force as enshrined in Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the Charter of the United Nations and must be brought to an immediate and unconditional end.
Tehran's top diplomat continued by blatantly lying, claiming that the Ayatollah regime always engages in meaningful and result-oriented negotiations, while further warning that if Iran would be attacked, the war would not be confined to the boundaries of Iran alone.
Distinguished delegates, Iran has always been prepared to engage in meaningful and result-oriented negotiations. Any sustainable agreement must ensure the full recognition of Iran's legitimate rights, deliver tangible benefits, and be safeguarded against unilateral actions that undermine trust and credibility. According to these principles, and as a result of the good offices by our friendly countries in the region, which we are very grateful, a new window of opportunity has opened, under which we had the second round of the negotiations with the United States earlier today here in Geneva. We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution which can serve the interest of relevant parties and the broader region. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression. The consequences of any attack against Iran will not be confined to its borders.
While the foreign minister was talking about the peaceful nature of his regime, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps reportedly opened fire towards Iranian civilians who were visiting the graves of their loved ones who were brutally murdered during protests that saw over 30,000 Iranian civilians killed by regime forces. In tandem, during a memorial service for regime forces who were killed in altercations with the protesters last month, RGC Quds Force Commander Ismail Khamenei pledged to hunt down anyone who was involved in the protests against the regime.
There is no doubt that the criminals will see the consequences of their crimes.
Meanwhile, in Israel, the defense establishment is preparing for renewed prospects of war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Among others, the IDF Home Front Command is holding deliberations in Jerusalem to ensure the protection of Israeli civilians during a potential attack by Iran against densely populated areas, while Israel's MDA first responders concluded a series of exercises simulating a large number of scenarios and implementing lessons learned from the June 12-day war with Iran. Separately, Jerusalem's Security Cabinet is scheduled to hold a meeting on Thursday evening to include Israel's senior security officials. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of viewers just like yourself. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel as we work fervently to update you on the latest and most complex issues related to both Israel, the Middle East, and beyond, you can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and the redemption of Israel. Jonathan Hassan wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.